Hi, it's Lucy, and today I'm here to do a video on my favorite books of 2018. So in 2018, I read 91 books, and the books I'm about to talk to you guys about are the ones that managed to rise above the rest. I don't do the favorites video where I have a specific number, so this isn't like a top 10 unless there are 10 books. Give me a second. I'm actually one short of top 10. It's a top 9, so I have 9 books to talk to you guys about. This is not going to be as in-depth as like I might have been in my wrap-ups, but all of these books have Goodreads reviews by me, so if you're interested, you can look that up, or you can look up the wrap-up that it's in. These books are not ranked. I will be talking about them in the order that I read them. However, the last book that I will be talking about is my number 1 favorite book, just by coincidence. That's how the cookie crumbled. So yeah, let's just get into the books. First, we have The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. You know what this is about, but just to give you a brief synopsis, we follow 16-year-old Star who ends up being the only witness to her childhood best friend's murder at police hands. And we follow her as she's dealing with witnessing a murder, dealing with the police brutality side of it and like the media craze around it, and also just dealing with her normal teenage life as a Black girl who lives in a poor neighborhood and going to school in a more affluent white suburban area. She deals with that kind of double life as well as her family life and everything else. And it's just a whole lot mixed up in this book, and I really loved it. If you haven't read this by now, I'm not sure me talking about it will make you read it at this point, because it has been a huge craze over in the YA sphere, over in the regular not YA sphere, even outside of book lovers. People know it and love it. There was a movie adaptation about it already, which is crazy when you think about it, because the book came out in 2017 and then had an adaptation in 2018. That's almost unheard of. I don't know what I can say about it, but I will tell you like just a little bit of why I love it. It's just because of how much heart it has. It was so refreshing to get to see Star, a young Black girl, grow and change throughout the story. I really appreciated, while it dealt with a horrifying topic, it wasn't all it was. It very easily could have turned into a one-track story, but it really encompassed all of Star, if that makes sense, and showcased like all the love that she had around her. And I don't know, I just really loved that about it. And The Hate You Give obviously has a trigger warning for police brutality. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. This has a trigger warning for rape and sexual assault and child abuse. This is the first in Maya Angelou's like autobiography. There's 9, I think. We follow her from childhood, living in a segregated small town in Arkansas, to when she's around 16 years old. And all I have to say is that I'm so glad I finally read this. This is a world-renowned book for a reason. It's really hard for me to say why I loved it. I just think that it was so honest, and that Maya Angelou really truly has a way with words that just reading her words, you just feel put into everything that she writes. It reads almost like a novel, even though this is her real life experience. And even though it was truly heartbreaking at times, it managed to be uplifting as well. Ask the Passengers by A.S. King. This one kind of caught me by surprise, but we follow Astrid Jones, who's dealing with the fact that she might be in love with a girl and she doesn't really know what that means for her. It also has a kind of fabulous element where she can kind of like talk to planes, or like people in planes, and like send love to them, which I really enjoyed. I was just so engrossed while reading this. Like I was like in a trance while I was reading it. I thought the characters were flawed but realistic, and I really appreciated that. I also really appreciated it for showing a family that's not perfect, and like not just not perfect, but they were like mostly terrible, or at least in my opinion, they weren't like that nice to Astrid, or really to each other. But I appreciated the showcasing of that, because that is also realistic. And I feel like in YA especially, we either have families that don't exist, or they are like the super loving like TV show family, I guess, which I appreciate. But I also do appreciate this like messy kind of family, because while it's sad to admit, a lot of kids don't have that like super loving, healthy environment. And if you don't have that environment, it can make you feel like something is wrong with you because somehow you didn't cultivate that. And it's kind of nice to see something the opposite of that. The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. This has a trigger warning for rape and sexual assault. This is about 3 girls who end up starting an anonymous feminist club at their school as a safe place for the girls at their school to talk about like the sexism that's happening around them in their town and in their school. I loved this book. I ended up listening to the majority of the book in one day, which says something. I was in tears for like the last hour and a half while I was reading it. All of the characters were so realistic to me. When they had a victory, I had a victory. When they were sad, I was sad. I loved being inside their heads, even when they weren't the greatest. I just thought they were so fleshed out. One of the main characters is a queer Latina, and another of the main characters is autistic. I will put out there that as far as I know, neither of these characters are own voices, but I have not heard anything negative about the representation in this book. And in my opinion, it didn't seem as if it overstepped its boundaries. I want this book to be given to like every girl in high school. I just thought it was wonderful. If you have a teenage girl in your life, I could not stop recommending this book. Picture Us in the Light by Kelly Lloyd Gilbert. This follows Danny Chang, who is a senior in high school and then gets early admission to the Rhode Island School of Design, which is his dream school. And Danny's super excited about this, except for the little pang in the back of his mind where he realizes how much he's going to miss his best friend Harry and how he will deal with a future without Harry. And also in this book, Danny's friend group has to deal with the anniversary of a tragedy. And also while Danny is like going through a closet in his house, he finds some information that his parents have been hiding from him and he doesn't know what it all means. And so he has to deal with finding out exactly what his parents have been hiding from him, along with all of these other feelings. And this is just such a nice book. If you can't tell, I really like character studies and stuff where we just are in a character's head like so deeply. That's what this is for me. Like it still has like the plot and the mystery of like finding out what's going on with his parents and stuff, but it's just like I loved learning about Danny Chang, what was going on. Almost all of the characters in this book are Asian American. Danny is Chinese, and on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum, it is never stated, but he is falling for a guy. The writing in this was beautiful as well. There were descriptions in here that nearly had me in tears, and I just loved reading this so much. This is definitely an underhyped book, but I definitely did not do as good of a job hyping this up as I feel like I could have been. So this is me hyping it up. You should definitely read this. I really liked it. If you're looking for own voices, Asian American fiction, then we're here. There's also a trigger warning for suicide and depression in this, so beware of that. If you can't handle it, I love this book. Definitely recommend this book. You should read it. This is a book that is definitely on a lot of other people's favorite books of 2018 list. Sadie by Courtney Summers. If you don't know what this is about, I feel like you probably have because this has been on a lot of other people's lists. But basically this takes place over 2 timelines. In the first one, we follow Sadie, who was the caretaker for her younger sister until one day her sister goes missing and she's found dead. So a year after that, Sadie also goes missing and no one knows what happened to her. And she goes on a mission to try and find her sister's killer and bring them to justice. And then in the other timeline, we follow a radio host who is trying to piece together what happened to Sadie after she went missing, why she went missing, and all of that. A lot of people recommend the audiobook. I did not listen to the audiobook because I did have an e-arc, so I read the ebook. I thought it was done well in the ebook as well, but if you can read the audiobook, I've heard it is fantastic. This book has a trigger warning for pedophilia, rape, sexual abuse, and violence. Although the sexual abuse is not graphic, that it is mostly mentioned that it happened, and it is part of the story how people think about true crime and how we treat it as entertainment, and like the more gory details the better. So that is also an interesting thing about this book that I would recommend this book for. I was just so engrossed with the story. I thought the characters were super fleshed out and I was just so intrigued the whole time. It really keeps you on your toes. You want to know what happens to Sadie because you can come to care for her. Even though Sadie has a lot of faults, I really cared for her. I really liked her as a character. This does have a kind of open ending, which a lot of people complained about. It wasn't my favorite, but I see why it happened. And if you can handle reading the difficult subject matter, I could not stop recommending this. Not That Bad, edited by Roxane Gay. This is an essay anthology featuring a bunch of different authors and writers and just people who have written about their experiences with rape culture. So this book does have trigger warning for sexual abuse, sexual harassment, child abuse, pedophilia, and violence. So please be aware of that. It is not like Sadie. There are some very graphic elements in this, but it was truly an amazing read. It is very intense though. So if you cannot handle that, then this is one of those books where I really recommend you take care of yourself. I found it personally very intense, and I don't have those triggers. So if you do at all a little bit, then I would be cautious. Every single essay in here is so powerful because everyone who wrote in was so honest, not even talking about like the graphic elements, but just their feelings and really talking about how their experiences affected them and how they see the world. It really makes you think. Like, this book was the book that made me think the most that I read this year. And if you can listen to the audiobook, I did. All of the essays are narrated by their individual author, so that is an extra experience on top, which I think also can make you really feel what's going on in the stories. I thought this was amazing. It was super well done. And if you have ever come across someone who doesn't believe in rape culture, doesn't think it exists, I want to shove this into every person who thinks that, who's ever said that's hands, because like, this is just like everything. Last but definitely not least, we have Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I tried to take the sticker off this book and it wasn't going well, so that's why it looks like that. But yes, this is my favorite book of the year. I talked about this in my November wrap-up. I love this book so much. It is everything I could have ever wanted in a YA fantasy. The super duper spark notes synopsis of this is that this takes place in Orisha, which used to have magic, like people were able to wield and use magic. So those people and the people who could not use magic were always at war with each other until one day magic disappeared, and then the non-magic users used that as an opportunity to kill all of the magic users. We follow our main character, Zele, 11 years later. She has grown up into a teenage girl and is a diviner, which means that if magic still existed, she would be able to use it. And she somehow gets caught up in this crazy plot where the princess of the kingdom runs away, and then they're trying to bring magic back while being chased by the princess's brother, also known as the prince. And yeah, it sounds very crazy, but you just have to read it. This book is just like action-packed. Every character in this book is Black, which is what I like to see. And it uses a different mythology than we're definitely used to in the Western culture, because this is based on Nigerian mythology. And so the whole magic system, the whole like belief system in here, like all of the fantasy elements are like very interesting and new. And I loved all of the characters. I loved seeing them. I loved watching them grow. They are flawed and complex, which I always appreciate in a book. And I cannot sing the praises of this enough, but I have been talking for like 20 minutes and my mouth hurts. So read this book. If you take anything from this video, I love this book. That is what you should take. So those are my favorite books of 2018. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. In the comments down below, let me know what were some of your favorite books of the year. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you can be notified whenever I post a video. And follow me on my social media. I have Goodreads and Twitter. They're both linked down below. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!